stepping in
spectacular,
as well.
over the top. I mean, that was a full force shot to the temple. I mean, he's right now. So they wipe off his gloves, but you look at him like he's really feeling it right now. I mean, he probably has no idea where he is.
Time when I'm going to take your soul, and you're either going to give up or you're going to get knocked out. And unless you have that instinct, you just will never be a good fighter.
It's likely that one big shot's going to land if the guy's not throwing other shots. So I thought with less artillery in the air, less bombs in the air, that the guy would have a chance to get to later rounds.
Joe Rogan reacts to Jake Paul's knockout loss with laughter alongside Anthony Joshua, calling the fight a clear mismatch from the very beginning. Rogan explains that Jake usually faces retired fighters or MMA opponents, not a legitimate Olympic champion heavyweight. He stresses that Joshua is not only an elite fighter, but also far above Jake's natural weight class. From a realistic boxing perspective, Rogan says the outcome was obvious long before the first punch was thrown, and the result simply confirmed what many expected.
Well, realistically, it's one of the craziest propositions of all time. You take a guy who just had a boxing match that looks like a sparring match with a 58-year-old Mike Tyson, and then you're going to fight one of the absolute scariest knockout artists.
After the fight, Anthony Joshua made a strong post-fight statement, saying the knockout actually saved Jake Paul. He explains that if the fight had continued, he would have completely broken Jake down mentally and physically. Joshua suggests that the early finish prevented even more damage from happening inside the ring.
Fighting's not just physical, it's psychological. And when you understand the psychological warfare, I did say to you that, Jake, what's going to happen? I'm going to see a time when I'm going to take your soul, and you're either going to give up or you're going to get knocked out. And unless you have that instinct...
Anthony Joshua being linked with a so-called circus fight against Jake Paul immediately divided opinion across boxing. Many saw it as a spectacle rather than a genuine sporting contest, with the difference in size, experience, and pedigree impossible to ignore. Joshua is a two-time heavyweight champion and Olympic gold medalist, while Jake Paul is still learning the sport. The matchup felt more like entertainment built for numbers than a genuine boxing challenge, which is why critics labeled it a circus rather than a real fight. Simon Jordan reacted strongly after Anthony Joshua broke Jake Paul's jaw with a knockout, calling the entire event damaging to boxing's credibility.
Industry, because straight after the fight, I heard the question being posed to Joshua, will he now fight Fury? And then my first thought was, after what I've seen, who cares? After that, who cares if Joshua fights Fury? I like Anthony Joshua immensely, Spencer. Any exchanges I've had with him, I think he comes across terrifically well. But I fail to see where it's taken us, where it's taken him, other than hugely increasing his bank balance. You know, I really fail to see what this has done.
Well, it's done nothing, but he was going to fight in November, like I said, and he's just gone in there against Jake Paul. What has it done for his legacy? Absolutely zero. But it was, you know, he's earned a lot of money doing that. And he's going to go again, and he's going to fight possibly February, March, and then there's that Tyson Fury fight that's looming that could happen in September, whether Tyson Fury decides to come out of retirement or not come out of retirement. For Anthony Joshua, he's earned a hell of a lot of money. This is prize fighting, and that's what it's all about. And that's what he's done. And
he argues that such fights blur the line between sport and spectacle and take attention away from meaningful competition. Jordan emphasizes that Joshua has already earned generational wealth and built a major legacy, so he does not need novelty fights. Even if a Tyson Fury bout never happens, Jordan says Joshua's financial security means walking away from boxing would not be surprising.
Earning more than Joshua. That apart, Spencer, 6 rounds to get Paul out of there. Reputationally, how does it leave AJ?
Well, thankfully, it didn't go to points, because I think that would have been a disaster for Anthony Joshua. I think that he needed to get the job done inside the distance, you know, and he done it. Look, he could have done it at any given point. I think that he could have cut the ring off whenever he wanted to and got Jake Paul out of there. He took his time on that. He allowed Jake Paul to run around like a rabbit and throw the occasional shot from time to time. And I think he only landed one clean punch, didn't he, Anthony Joshua? And that was the one that broke his jaw in 2 places.
But, I mean, you said, did you not, to us in this very studio the other day, he's got to get him out of there in round 1.
I did.
Otherwise, what are we seeing?
Exactly that. You know, and I think what we saw there was a little bit of entertainment. And that was pretty much it, but not not entertainment that many people enjoyed, if I'm honest. I think that people wanted to see a demolition job.
Joe Rogan praises Anthony Joshua by highlighting his speed, athleticism, and devastating power. Rogan explains that Joshua moves like someone much lighter than a heavyweight and carries one-punch knockout power that can change a fight instantly. He calls Joshua a nightmare matchup because of how quickly he can close distance and end exchanges. According to Rogan, these qualities make it unrealistic for crossover fighters to compete with him at a serious level.
Boxer, but this is a giant Olympic gold medalist heavyweight. I mean, Anthony Joshua is
Here's the
terrifying.
thing that nightmares are made of.
And he's got that one-punch nuclear power. One punch.
Adam Booth gives a brutally honest breakdown and notes that Jake Paul did manage to make Anthony Joshua miss at certain moments, which he considers significant. Booth says Jake's movement and positioning showed improvement and discipline, forcing Joshua to reset rather than land freely. While Booth makes it clear that this does not mean Jake was winning, he acknowledges that making an elite heavyweight hesitate or miss is a big deal and shows progress in Jake's development. Continuing his analysis, Adam Booth explains that making a fighter like Joshua miss is not accidental and requires preparation, timing, and confidence. Booth says Jake's footwork and willingness to remain composed under pressure deserve credit. However, he also stresses that these moments do not change the overall reality of the fight. Joshua's class, power, and experience still dictated the outcome once he found his opening.
Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul shared a ring. Your takeaways from the 6 rounds that we saw, presuming you watched?
I was impressed with Jake Paul. I thought that, following on from what we're saying, right? A few years ago, he was on Disney as a kid, acting up, and has decided to become a professional fighter. That takes balls, but he's obviously striving to be as good as he can be. You can see that in the way that he moves, the way that he is developed in how he's punching and performing. But to make a 2-time world heavyweight champion that's still live, you know, AJ's still got something about him, to make him miss in such an accomplished manner. All right, so at times he was jumping out and running around, but there were times when he was well in range and still making AJ unable to land a clean, solid shot. He deserves a lot of respect for that. And then the shot that actually finished the fight, that broke his jaw quite badly, didn't put him out. That shot's put that shot he threw with serious intention has put a lot of professional heavyweights to sleep. He didn't go to sleep. He actually finished on his knees, didn't he? Laughing and spitting blood out of his mouth. So, like they say, like it's a special type of crazy and a special type of brave to do it. But I actually hats off to him because he showed that he's developing some accomplished little skills in there to look after himself. The size difference is always going to fatigue him.
I know everyone will come with the idea that, oh, well, AJ should just go in there 1 round and smash him to bits, and that should be it was a big ring, right? Perhaps he could have cut the ring off a bit better, but would I be right in saying that regardless of skill level, if you forget about that with the 2 for a second, if someone is on the back foot and on their bike and doing what Jake was doing, it's difficult, no matter who you are, no matter the kind of separation in skill level.
It's a big ring, and you've either got to run at him and look like a novice yourself, or just take your time and understand.
In the aftermath, attention shifts to Logan Paul appearing to intimidate Anthony Joshua and talking about revenge for his brother. Logan reportedly expressed interest in fighting Joshua, but analysts immediately dismissed the idea as an even bigger mismatch than Jake's fight. They point out that Jake trains full-time with professional boxing coaches. While Logan lacks that same level of commitment and skill, a Logan versus Joshua fight would be even more one-sided. Further discussion around the aftermath reinforces that Logan Paul's pursuit of Anthony Joshua would cross from spectacle into outright farce. Analysts argue that even Jake, despite losing, showed that he belongs in professional boxing at a basic level. Logan, by comparison, is seen as far less polished and less serious. The consensus is that such a fight would offer nothing competitive and would only increase criticism of boxing's direction.
Would be more of a mismatch than Jake Paul. You know what I mean? Because at least Jake Paul has taken boxing or has trained with real boxing trainers in real boxes. Whereas Logan Paul, you know, he did that exhibition with Floyd, and Floyd's a little guy. Not saying a little guy can't thump, because Floyd really gave him some 2 pieces with no sides, right? But at the same time, you take his friend, Floyd's friend, Anthony Joshua, and get hit by him and see what happens. The same thing. Probably worse, because I think Logan, you know, he's a little taller, than Jake. And because he's a little taller than Jake, he may think he's a little stronger than Jake, which I don't know which one's true or not. I don't think it makes a difference. But because he may feel that way, he may want to go in there and try to bang it out with AJ. And if that happens, it's going to be a lot quicker. See, that 6 rounds it took AJ to finally catch Jake. It took that way because Jake was on that bicycle, moving, being elusive, trying to come in and then come out. He tried to do a very poor man's Alexander Usyk, right? And it didn't work for him. Logan ain't going to do that. Logan's going to come in throwing punches and bunches like he did with Floyd, trying to get him in there and, do all this stuff. And what's going to happen as soon as AJ lines him up, sets his punch, he's going to hit Jake and he's going to break Jake down.
Sugashan O'Malley breaks down the fight aftermath by focusing on Jake Paul's mindset going into the bout. He says the trash talk and confidence Jake showed before the fight were misunderstood by critics. According to Ollie, Jake needed that talk to mentally prepare himself to step into the ring with a 2-time Olympic champion. Ollie explains that belief and self-talk are essential when facing overwhelming odds, even if the result ultimately goes against you. O'Malley adds that without that mental edge, Jake may not have been able to perform at all under the pressure. He believes the criticism ignores how difficult it is to share a ring with someone of Joshua's caliber. While the loss was decisive, Ollie argues that Jake's approach showed respect for the challenge and highlighted the psychological demands of fighting an elite heavyweight.
Out in the ring.
Jake was shooting double legs, too.
Shooting double legs, nice
duck
ones
unders.
with ankle picks, duck unders. But, dude, God, I see so much people talking shit on the fight, which, dude, what the fuck did they expect? Like, Jake was hyping himself up, saying he's going to win. Dude, that's self-belief. He needed that to go in. He needed that to get himself into the ring. You know what I'm saying? He just needed that.
What do you think about the sticking that's hung out?
Dude, he's a showman. This is a fucking YouTuber that switched to pro boxing.
Yep.
And he's fighting Anthony fucking Joshua.
He's
He made $90 million, $7.5 million per minute. Nate Diaz says that boy don't work hard enough. This girl in the UFC said Jake Paul shot more double legs in boxing in a match than I did in my UFC career. Ryan Garcia said he's a runner, he's a track star. Aljamain said this is a clown show. Josh Hammond said, dude, it's like, what did they expect? They expect him to go in there and look like a clean fucking Floyd versus Manny Pacquiao. Two of the, you know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck?
You see the aftermath, like his jaw and everything? Fuck.
Jake Paul's broken jaw. Jake has to get wired shut for 7 days or something like that.
Yeah, like
Tim
titanium
had to do
plates.
7 weeks.
Yeah, Tim says that was the worst thing he's ever gone through.
7 weeks. Tim broke his jaw in Montana. Tried to go to the hospital. Hospital said the surgeon's out of town. So now he has to. So he's fucking goes like a week without even getting surgery. At least Jake was able to probably get it like next day, that same day. But it's like all the people hating on Jake. It's crazy. Connor said Jake is stupid and will be altered permanently from this bout. I look at it. It's inspiring seeing what he does because I know how much like he's putting in work. He's doing legitimate fight camps. He's doing sparring. He's doing rounds. He's eating. He's doing everything. And
Teddy Atlas explains that his prediction about the fight going several rounds was based on real boxing factors, not any fixed or staged idea. He points to Anthony Joshua's long layoff, the knockout loss in his previous fight, and a mental hesitation that naturally follows. Atlas says those ghosts take time to clear, especially for a fighter who is not a fast starter. He also mentions the larger ring size, which gave Jake Paul more room to move and survive early. Atlas believes Jake had a serious game plan focused on movement and endurance. But once the pressure increased, the air became thin. According to Atlas, Jake reached a level he had never experienced before, both mentally and physically. The combination of Joshua's pressure, Jake's muscular build causing faster fatigue, and the intensity of elite competition led to Jake gassing out. Atlas firmly states that the fight was real and decided by boxing realities.
Go rounds. I wasn't sure if there was going to be a silent agreement. I wasn't sure there was going to be a sparring match agreement that will spar for a while. I wasn't sure. I was honest about it. That's why he said it's going to go rounds. I wasn't sure if there was an understanding that, we'll play a little bit and then we'll get a little more and, whatever. So that was part of it. But there was real parts. Say, that's the fixed part. That's the WWE part. That's where the people, and I'm with you. I get it if you want to think that. Here's why I picked rounds, and this is what I think I saw, and I know that in my mind I saw, was the fact is that a lot of people didn't think about. 15 months off. And there was going to be some rust. There was going to be some hesitation. There was going to be some time. He got knocked out by Dubois freaking 15 months ago. There were going to be ghosts in the attic. I don't care who you're fighting. You get in the ring again. It's going to take a minute to exercise those ghosts. The rust. You want to call it rust, whatever. It's going to take 5-6 rounds to get rid of the rust. But it's going to, the doubt, the self-doubt, the being in the ring for the first time with nothing in between after being knocked out. That was going to be a play. And then the size of the ring, 22 by 20. It's usually 20 to 20 is pretty usually around average. And it's 22 by 20. More room to elude, more room to move around, right? I thought maybe go in there with track shoes.
Chris Algieri and Paulie Malignaggi give a harsh but honest breakdown of the fight, focusing on how badly it ended for Jake Paul. They point out that Jake suffered serious damage, including a jaw broken in 2 places and lost teeth, yet still failed to earn the respect of boxing fans. According to Chris, fans were not entertained because Jake never truly tried to fight. He believes Jake would have been better off going out aggressively, even if that meant getting knocked out earlier. Chris compares it to the Ananu fight, saying fighters earn respect when they actually attempt to win. Paulie expands on this by explaining that Jake's hit-and-run style was never sustainable. He says constantly moving drains the legs and only delays the inevitable, especially in a big ring. Paulie adds that Jake simply does not have the boxing skills to move and box effectively at the same time. As a novice, Paulie explains that a fighter can either fight hard or run, but cannot effectively mix both. Jake chose survival, and both analysts agree that choice ultimately hurt his standing with boxing fans far more than an early knockout would have.
An Ngannou type fight. Yeah, Ngannou, he's got balls. Ngannou's got balls, man. He went out there and he tried to fight, tried to win. Jake Paul didn't try to win at any point during the fight. He was just trying to survive. I think that's actually ultimately going to hurt him with boxing fans.
What do you think, Paulie? I mean, you talked about the in and out kind of style, kind of hits and runs, and you said that A, it runs out your legs. He was exhausted a couple rounds into the fight, and B, it only saved him for so long.
He doesn't have the boxing skills to box on the move anyway. Once I saw the big ring, I knew he was going to run for his life. When you're that much of a novice, which obviously it's not even an insult to him, it's just lack of experience. But when you're that much of a novice, you either know how to run for your life or fight all out. You don't have that in between yet. You haven't developed enough of that in between boxing acumen to really pull that off. And so what ends up happening? You're either going to fight your ass off and you'll last a minute. Chris, you're being generous. Round 2, he would have got knocked out in round 1 if he would have fought. But at least he would have fought. He would have got the respect of the people and more importantly, the boxing community instead of these clowns that follow him and are still defending him. Now what happens is you didn't get any respect as a fighter. You didn't get any respect as a fighter because you didn't try to fight at all. If he would have, I was watching that through 2-3 rounds. I'm thinking to myself, this guy would do this for 8 rounds if he can. If he can do this for 8 rounds, absolutely not fight at all, absolutely not engage a single time in 8 rounds, he will actually do this. And he'll do it shamelessly. And that's the problem. That's the problem. The shamelessness of his approach to the fight. You're gonna be a fighter, then don't make an ass out of the whole sport, out of the whole business, and out of yourself first and foremost. Because in the end, what happens? You got his jaw broke anyway. So what ends up happening? What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to get hurt? You're going to get knocked out? You got hurt and you got knocked out anyway. But you just prolonged the inevitable, and you got no respect out of it now. Because nobody's respecting that kind of performance. Nobody's respecting a performance where you were totally content to steal money from everyone.
In the end, this one felt inevitable. It was a mismatch on paper that played out the same way inside the ring. Anthony Joshua's size, speed, and one-punch power proved decisive. At the same time, Jake Paul showed flashes of improvement, heart, and the kind of defensive movement that suggests he's learning, but he is not yet ready to bridge the gap to an elite Olympic-level heavyweight. The fallout highlights 2 competing storylines. Critics who view these crossover bouts as circus-style spectacles that damage boxing's credibility, and supporters who give Jake credit for the mental toughness it takes to step up to a real challenge. Whatever your view, the result reinforced the simple boxing truth the experts kept returning to: class, experience, and power win fights. That's it for today's video. Stay tuned, and until next time.